You know, sometimes the biggest historical breakthroughs, they don't come from some huge, dramatic discovery. Nope. Sometimes they're hiding in just a single, kinda confusing line of text. So today, we're basically putting on our detective hats. We're going to solve a 1,200-year-old geographical puzzle that's had historians scratching their heads for centuries, and it's all tucked away in this one mysterious medieval manuscript.
All right, so let's get right into it. The whole mystery boils down to this. You've got this geographer, right? It's the 9th century, and he's making a list of all the different peoples in Central Europe. He lists the Moravians, and then just a few lines down, he lists, well, the Moravians again. But he calls them something different. So the big question is, why? Why list the same people twice? Was this just some scribal error, a simple mistake, or was it actually a clue, pointing to something way, way bigger?
And this is our key piece of evidence. I know it might just look like an old map, but I promise you, hidden in its names and numbers is the key to a nation's birth. So come on, let's open the case file on this incredible document.
To solve this thing, we first got to understand where the mystery is even coming from. Who wrote this document and what were they even trying to do?
Okay, so the document's official name is the Description of the Cities and Regions North of the Danube. It was put together back in the 9th century by some anonymous writer who we now just call the Bavarian Geographer. And his goal was pretty simple, really. He was basically creating an intelligence report for his bosses in the Frankish Empire, cataloging all the different groups living on their eastern border. And the scope of this thing is huge. I mean, it covers mostly Slavic groups. There's even this wild theory that it was written by Saint Methodius, the famous missionary. But for our investigation, the most important detail, the real smoking gun, is that it gives us data, specifically the number of fortresses each of these groups controlled.
And that data, that's where the first major clues start to pop up. So let's really dig into the numbers, almost like we're detectives examining evidence from a crime scene.
Okay, so here's the raw data, the actual list. The geographer notes the Bohemians have 15 fortresses. The Moravians, who he calls the Marhari, have 11. The powerful Bulgarians, just 5. But then we get to this entry. The Merhani are other Moravians who supposedly have a staggering 30 fortresses. 30!
And when you chart it out like this, it really puts it into perspective, doesn't it? These mysterious Merhani didn't just have a few strongholds. They had more fortresses than the Bohemians and the other Moravians put together. This was no minor tribe. According to this Frankish intelligence report, these guys were a major regional power.
And look, this isn't us interpreting something. It's stated right there in the text. The original Latin is crystal clear. There is a people called the Mirihani. They have 30 fortresses. So this confirms they were seen as a distinct and powerful group. But this just makes the mystery even deeper and, honestly, introduces a whole new problem.
I mean, a powerful people with 30 fortresses, they should be pretty easy to find on a map, right? Well, not so fast. The geographer's own list makes it incredibly confusing. It's almost like it breaks all the rules of geography.
Here's the crucial point, the golden rule, really. The author explicitly says his work covers the lands north of the Danube River. This is non-negotiable, and that one rule immediately rules out a bunch of theories, like the idea that the Mirahani were Serbians living on the southern Morava River. Nope, they had to be located north of the Danube.
And this is where the geography just gets weird. The list seems to be following a north to south pattern. It starts with the Bohemians, moves south to the Moravians, but then it completely breaks that pattern. It jumps down to the Bulgarians before suddenly jumping back north to mention another group of Moravians. The sequence makes absolutely no geographical sense.
So that brings us right to the heart of the puzzle. We've got this powerful people. They have to be north of the Danube, but their placement in this ancient list is completely illogical. What on earth could explain this anomaly?
Okay, so what's the solution? This is the moment, the big reveal, where all the clues, the names, the numbers, the weird geography, finally click into place and show us something amazing about history.
The solution is this. The Bavarian geographer wasn't describing two different peoples. He was describing two parts of a brand new kingdom. The Marahari, with their 11 fortresses, were the original Moravians, the ones closer to the Frankish border. The Mirahani, with their massive 30 fortresses, were the Moravians of the recently conquered Principality of Nitra. They were the further Moravians, from a Frankish point of view.
And the timeline just seals the deal. See, these two principalities were unified by force around the year 833. And this document, it was written only about 10 years later. So for an outsider like our geographer, the memory of two distinct political entities was still super fresh. He was describing a political reality that had literally just changed.
And just like that, the puzzle is solved. The Maraharai and the Murahani, they were the two building blocks of a new powerhouse state that we now call Great Moravia. The geographer wasn't making a mistake at all. He was giving us a remarkably accurate snapshot of a kingdom in the very moment it was being born.
So you might be thinking, okay, cool, but why spend all this time on what was basically a 1,200-year-old clerical error that wasn't an error? Well, because what it reveals tells us a whole lot about how nations actually come to be.
The big takeaway here is that history isn't just about grand events. It's also about perception. This document gives us this incredibly rare glimpse into how a powerful neighbor saw a new kingdom, not as one single, unified state, but as two distinct pieces that were still coming together. It's a real-time snapshot of a nation's birth, captured through the eyes of a foreign agent. For 1,200 years, this simple list has held a secret. It wasn't just counting fortresses. It was documenting the birth of a nation in real time. It captured that fleeting moment when a unified people were still seen by the outside world as two.
And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? This whole story was pieced together from just a few confusing lines in an ancient manuscript. What other incredible secrets about how our world was formed are still out there, just hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone to connect the dots?